All right, let's talk about something I'm sure you felt. You know that moment when you're learning a new language and you just hit a wall? It's like the words all make perfect sense, but the meaning totally goes over your head. Well, today, we're going to crack one of the biggest and most fascinating puzzles in Japanese communication.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a classic scenario. Picture this. You're in Japan, right? And a friend, maybe a colleague, invites you to something. An event, a dinner, you're pretty excited about it. You're waiting for their reply, and then this lands in your inbox.
You see the phrase, "Mai mukini kento shimasu," and your brain does the direct translation. We will consider it positively. So you're thinking, awesome, that sounds great, they're really thinking about it. You start clearing your schedule, and then you wait, and nothing. The confirmation never ever arrives.
And here's the kicker. That's because, in so many situations, that phrase is actually a very polite, super indirect, but for those in the know, a totally clear no. Yeah, confusing, right? Well, guess what? You've just had your first real lesson in a core piece of Japanese culture. So what's going on here? Why does a phrase that sounds like yes actually mean no? And, more importantly, how can you learn to hear the real message? Don't worry, that is exactly what we are going to decode today.
All right, the secret to all of this, the master key, really, comes down to two super important concepts. Think of them as the social operating system for Japan, Honne and Tatemae. Once you get this duo, it's like you've been given the key to crack the entire code.
So first up, we've got Honne. Honne is, well, it's your real feelings, your gut reaction. It's the unfiltered stuff you'd scribble in a journal or, text your absolute best friend when you need to vent. It's your true private voice.
And then on the flip side, you have Tatemae. Now this is the public face, the one you show the world. It's the behavior and the opinions you put out there to make sure everything runs smoothly, to be polite and to keep the peace. You can almost think of it as your carefully curated social media profile, but for real life.
So there you have it. Honne, your private truth. Tatemae, your public facade. They're not enemies, they're two sides of the same coin, constantly balancing what you want with what the group needs.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking, because a lot of people from outside Japan have this reaction. Hang on a second, isn't this just being two-faced or kind of fake? And look, from a culture that values super direct communication, that's a totally fair question. But it's really not how it's seen at all inside Japan.
See, Tatemae isn't about trying to trick people. Far from it. It's actually a really sophisticated tool for creating what's called wa, or social harmony. It's like a social lubricant, It smooths out all the rough edges and interactions, stops people from getting embarrassed, and lets everyone save face. Think of it as a kind of white lie that pretty much everyone understands and agrees to participate in.
But why? Where did this whole system even come from? This wasn't something that just popped up overnight. No, this is a social strategy that's been forged in the fire of centuries, and it has incredibly deep roots in Japan's history.
Believe it or not, it all goes back to rice farming. For hundreds and hundreds of years, life in Japan revolved around these tight-knit farming villages. Everyone had to work together. I mean, you literally needed your neighbor to help manage the water for your crops. So harmony wasn't just a nice idea, it was a matter of life and death. If you caused conflict, you could be ostracized, kicked out of the group. And back then, that was basically a death sentence. So Tatemae evolved as a survival mechanism, a way to protect not just yourself, but the entire community.
So, to boil it all down, in a small, crowded country where your survival literally depended on your neighbor, avoiding direct conflict wasn't just good manners. It was an essential strategy for living to see another day. But here's where it gets really interesting. This whole code isn't a one-size-fits-all deal across Japan. Not at all. And to really see it in action, we're going to look at a tale of two cities, the famous and famously different Kyoto and Osaka. So, in one corner, you've got Kyoto, the old imperial capital, home of refinement, elegance, and super subtle communication. And in the other corner, you have Osaka, a bustling, loud, in-your-face merchant city, known for being incredibly direct and frank. It's like this. In Kyoto, your host might offer you some tea rice, which is the code for, hey, it's time for you to go home. But in Osaka, someone might just walk up to you and ask, hey, how much did you pay for that shirt? Not to be rude, but just out of genuine, friendly curiosity.
Yeah, that Kyoto phrase, shall we have sambubuzuke, it's legendary for a reason. And here's the pro tip. If you're ever a guest in a Kyoto home and you hear that, whatever you do, do not say yes.
It's not a real offer of food. It's the beautifully subtle signal that it's time to say your goodbyes. I mean, that is tatemae at its most masterful.
Okay, so we've kind of cracked the code, right? Now let's make this practical. Let's give you some tools to take this idea and actually use it. Here are a few great conversation starters for your next language exchange, so you can really dig into this with a native speaker. First up, just ask them about being direct. You could say something like, "So in your culture, when you have to say no to someone, what's the best way to do it? Is it better to be direct and just say no, or is it more important to be indirect so you don't hurt their feelings?" This one question can tell you so much. Next, you can bring up the idea of white lies. Ask them, "Do you guys have things like white lies to keep things running smoothly?" A perfect example is the awkward gift. You know, what do you say when your aunt gives you a sweater you would never, ever wear in public? And finally, bring it home. Ask them about their own country. Hey, are there big differences in how people talk in different regions? Kind of like the Kyoto and Osaka thing? Is there a place in your country known for being really blunt and another place that's known for being more polite and indirect? All right, so after going through all of that, what's the big idea here? Well, the main thing is that you've basically unlocked a new superpower. Seriously, it's the ability to start reading between the lines.
So let's just quickly run through the key takeaways. Number 1, Honne Tatemae is all about creating harmony. It is not about being deceptive. Number 2, the whole system only works because everybody knows the secret rules. Number 3, the real skill here is what the Japanese call kuki wo yomu, literally reading the air. And finally, at its heart, it's a kind system that lets everyone involved walk away without feeling embarrassed.
And look, understanding this stuff isn't just about memorizing some cultural rules so you don't mess up. It goes so much deeper than that. It's about building empathy. It's about being able to see the world through a completely different lens. And honestly, it's a tool that will let you forge much deeper, more authentic connections with people. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If a system this deep and complex is hiding just beneath the surface in Japan, just imagine what other incredible, invisible rules are out there waiting for you to discover in whatever language you're learning. The adventure is just getting started. Keep exploring.